Astronomers begin comparing galaxies across the sky and notice the same behavior repeating again and again. They look in one direction. Distant galaxies are moving away. They look somewhere else. The same pattern appears. They keep expanding the map, and the result refuses to change. The picture starts to look familiar. An expanding blast leaves the same visual impression. Everything seems to be spreading outward. Everything seems to be creating more distance. The farther astronomers look, the more the universe appears to resemble an explosion already in progress. That observation creates an immediate expectation. Every explosion people have ever seen expands away from something. A firework has a center. A grenade has a center. A cloud of debris has a center. Remove the center, and the entire pattern stops making sense. So the search begins. If galaxies are moving apart in every direction, there should be a place where it all started, a location the expansion points back toward. Yet as the observations accumulate, that location refuses to appear. The expansion looks real. The center should look real too. It does not. Astronomers respond in the obvious way. If the center is not visible yet, the map must be too small. So the surveys grow larger, telescopes reach farther, more galaxies are added to the picture. Regions that once sat beyond observation move on to the chart. At first, that seems promising. A real explosion should become easier to understand as more of it comes into view. Expand the map far enough, and some directional clue should begin to emerge. One side should look different. One region should point back toward the origin more clearly than the rest. Instead, the opposite happens. Each new section of the map was supposed to reduce the mystery. Instead, it expanded it. Distant galaxies were moving away there, too. Astronomers compared one direction with another. The pattern refused to break. The larger the survey became, the fewer places remained where a center could hide. No preferred direction stands out. The map keeps improving. The explanation keeps getting worse. Every success creates the same failure. The observations work. The expected clue does not. Every larger map removes another place where the center could have been hiding. Every new observation takes an explanation that seemed reasonable before and leaves it with less room to survive. The problem is no longer that the center has not been found. The problem is that the fingerprints expected from a center never appear. A possible answer finally begins to take shape. Maybe the search has been asking too much from the map. Astronomers notice something strange about the pattern itself. Wherever the observations are made, distant galaxies appear to be moving away. The same outward behavior shows up again and again. The view seems to organize itself around the observer. That changes the interpretation. Imagine standing inside an expanding system instead of outside it. The pattern would look different. The center might not reveal itself directly. It could remain somewhere beyond the region that can actually be observed. For a moment, the missing center becomes less troubling. The expansion still looks real. The lack of directional clues no longer feels fatal. If every observer sees a locally centered pattern, then perhaps the center has simply stayed beyond reach the entire time. For the first time, the missing center stops looking impossible. It finally has somewhere to hide. The search does not need to end. The map may simply be incomplete. Humanity may still be looking at only part of a much larger structure. And if that is true, the next expectation follows naturally. Larger observations should eventually expose some trace of the hidden origin. Somewhere, a directional clue should begin to emerge from the growing map. The hidden center survives a little longer. The maps keep growing. The hiding place keeps shrinking. The expectation remains simple. If the center exists somewhere beyond the visible universe, then expanding the observations should gradually expose its influence. But the expected signal never arrives. Astronomers compare one direction against another. Nothing changes. They extend the map again. Nothing changes. They push farther into space, searching for some imbalance, some preferred direction, some indication that one side of the universe is different from the other. Nothing appears. The strange behavior that showed up in smaller surveys survives every new test. No matter where observations are made, the expansion can be described from the observer's own position. The pattern never settles around a special location. That creates a growing problem. The hidden center was not just an explanation, it was also a prediction. And predictions are supposed to become easier to test as evidence accumulates. Eventually, larger observations were supposed to reveal evidence pointing toward it. Instead, every successful measurement removes another place where the prediction can survive. The escape route begins to collapse. The universe still looks like something expanding outward. Galaxies still appear to be separating across enormous distances. Yet the defining feature that should accompany an ordinary explosion remains missing. Not hidden, missing. The contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. The observations keep succeeding, but the expectation behind them keeps failing. Whatever is happening, it can no longer be understood as ordinary objects simply flying away from a special place in space. And once that possibility begins to fall apart, a more unsettling question takes its place. If galaxies are not just moving outward from a cosmic center, then what exactly is growing? The answer appears when astronomers stop asking where the center is. Astronomers stop treating galaxies as debris moving through a fixed universe. They look instead at the growing distances between them. Something different comes into focus. Two galaxies can become farther apart without racing away from a central location. The separation can increase because the space between them increases. The change seems small at first, but it transforms the entire problem. Nothing visible changes. Galaxies still appear to move away. The universe still appears to expand. The measurements stay exactly the same. What changes is the thing doing the expanding. The galaxies are no longer behaving like fragments thrown outward after a blast. The distances themselves are growing. More space appears between one galaxy and the next. And once that happens, the missing center stops being a mystery. The search had been built around the wrong image. An ordinary explosion requires a special location because objects are flying through pre-existing space. This process does not. The universe is not expanding away from a central point. The space between galaxies is expanding everywhere the process occurs. Everything can move away from everything else at the same time. Yet nowhere in the universe does a special starting point need to exist. The universe looked like an explosion. It was the meaning of the pattern that was wrong.